viewers, many thanks for joining us. This is Open Horn of Africa's English program, and the program is a special edition on the current affairs of the country, Ethiopia. Today, I'm joined by Zoom meeting with Gidey Zeratsion. Many thanks for joining us and welcome to this program.
Thank you. Thank you that you gave me this opportunity.
Well, just to begin with, would you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Gidey Zeratsion, as you already said. I am one of the founders of the TPLF, but I have left the organization 33 years ago, I can say. And then I am living now in Norway. I'm a Norwegian citizen, engaged in Ethiopian politics. I've been engaged the last 50 years, you can say. I'm still actively following the Ethiopian politics, and I'm also engaged.
Well, you are among founding member of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. Why have you left them, first of all?
I left the organization after 10 years. It means it was during the formation of the Marxist-Leninist Party. We had some political disagreements, policy matter and ideological issues as well. So that disagreement definitely wouldn't have forced me to leave the organization, but they forced me out of the organization. Therefore, it was not on my own will that I left the organization. They forced me out. We had some critical political issues, but I could have stayed, I think, like a member of a democratic force there, irrespective of the ideological differences. So but they meant that ideology is different from ours and you cannot continue.
When TPLF first formed, what was the major points of their primary objective?
It was an extension of the student movement, you can say. At that time, there were different political issues in Ethiopia. The issue of democracy, type of government or state, land issue, and the national issue. There were such issues at that time. And we, as the Tigrayans, we organized as our issue as a national issue. At the same time, all the rest other democratic issues as well, and the land issue. So the aim was actually to form a democratic Ethiopia where all the nationalists have equal rights and equal participations. It continued that way, and finally even the TPLF came to power in 1983 and was a ruler for some 27 years in Ethiopia.
How do you value the TPLF's leadership over the past 27 years when they were on power?
Well, it was a repressive regime, as you all know. There was no democratic rights. Opposition parties were not allowed. It believes in a one-party system, and it claims that it has established a federal system in Ethiopia, but it is not. And as far as there is no democracy, there could not be any federalism. The whole power was centralized in one party. Not only in one party, it was centered in one person. So the system was not democratic, repressive, and as you know, finally it was pushed out by popular uprising of the people. So it is history, it's a history of repression, dictatorship, and also it has been divisive, polarizing conflicts among the people, polarizing any tribal or regional issues just to stay in power. So it has been also divisive in its nature. I mean, dividing all the people, undermining the unity of Ethiopia, the unity of Ethiopians as well. That's the history we know about TPLF, I think. Many people have suffered in the prisons of TPLF. Many have been forced to flee the country, and even conflicts with regional neighbors, like with Eritrea and other neighbors as well.
How do you describe the track record of criminals that the TPLF leaders and their authorities have been doing for the last 27 years in this country?
It was with an iron hand they have been ruling this country. It was really a dictatorial system. When Mallas was at the helm of the power, he was doing whatever he wants. He was ultimate power in that country. There were, by definition, some national regions, but all these regions were under the control of the TPLF. Besides that, it was harsh on opponents. There have been a lot of missing people, disappearing people, a lot of imprisonment, torture in prisons. It was a real dictatorial regime. And that's why, at last, then the people have revolted against it.
The TPLF and its leadership was accused of being a tool to serve the United States of America's interest in the Horn of Africa. What is your reflection upon this point?
They have been serving the interest of America, and Americans were supporting them. With all these characteristics I have explained before, there could have been a lot of pressure on them, like they are undemocratic, and then to force them to change and all these things. But that pressure was not coming from Americans or Europeans, because it was an ally. It was serving some of their interests. For Americans, for example, the TPLF has sent armies to fight Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab in Somalia. They have been serving their interests anyway, or whatever they want them. And they were supporting them, actually, giving them aid. The country was living on aid, as you can see. The aid that they were getting from, of course, they are manipulative as well. They know how to get aid. They know the European sentiment, they know the Europeans, and then they know how to exploit them. They were getting, Ethiopia was one of the greatest beneficiaries in Africa, maybe next to Egypt. So they were getting 3 billion every year, but this 3 billion was exported back to out of the country. So, there has been some appreciations on the economic development they have shown, but it was related to their economic monopoly, actually. It is to, they have been businessmen, the autocrats themselves. They have businesses, they have business companies. All the businesses, most businesses were under their control. It was their property. So in that respect, they have shown some kind of developments related to their business interests. But as to the common people, there was a lot of unemployment, generally in Ethiopia. And in Tigray, you can say there was no investment at all. There were few companies, one or two that you can mention, like the medical factory or something like that, and the cement factory, I think. Otherwise, there was not any investment around there. They invested actually where they get profits, and that is around Addis Ababa and areas where there are businesses. So their investment policy was not related to the public, but to their economic agenda interests.
What is the secret behind the relationship between the US and the Western countries as well as between the TPLF? Why they are currently continuously supporting the tourist TPLF?
They have been serving them when they were in power. That's one thing. Secondly, there are a lot of officials who had a good relationship with the regime, who were also beneficiaries of some of these economic interests. They are still around the power circle in United States, and some of them in United Kingdom, in Europe. So they have some kind of people in the power circles of these countries. Secondly, there are a lot of researchers, lobbyists who are connected to TPLF because of this economic interests as well. So these people have been very active in carrying the propaganda of TPLF to the West. The moment they attacked, the war started, this network was in action. So TPLF was also very clever in presenting to the media. They understand the secessions and what the Europeans want to see. So they were providing them these things. So I think some sensational things which they were not true, actually sometimes some of them, they have been fabricated by TPLF, and then they orchestrated these things. And it appeals some of the people in Europe as well. So this has supported them, I think, in a way, partially. But beyond that, there could be also strategic interests of these European countries. They know a strong Ethiopia and an independent Ethiopia could be a challenge for them, might not serve their own interests. So TPLF has proved that they could serve them. So I think that could be one reason. And especially when TPLF comes to Ethiopia, it does not advocate to strong Ethiopian nationalism. They divide the country. So if it comes, then it will be easier for them to maneuver also around these different groups in Ethiopia. So there could be a lot of reasons behind it. But from geopolitical aspects, Europeans want an Ethiopia which can be subdued to their interests. That could be one of the reasons, I think. I think they have got to so far to the extreme that the way they behaved in this war is completely unacceptable. I mean, even from their own interest as well. They have been supporting a splinter group who wants us to destabilize Ethiopia. And from that sense, even, what would they gain if the Ethiopia is destabilized? If Ethiopia is destabilized in this area, it will destabilize the whole Horn of Africa. So it would not be for their own interest as well. But there could be a miscalculation here.
Well, at this time, what do you feel about the TPLF? Because you are founding member of the TPLF. What do you feel about your party, the party that you found?
This party, I have been criticizing it for a long time, condemning it for what it does, and for what policies it has. So I have been opposing this organization for all these years. More so now, where it has caused a lot of problems for the people of Tigray and even for the neighboring regions, the whole Ethiopia. So this is a monstrous organization. They don't care about civilian people, even for which the people of Tigray, for which they say they defend him, but they don't care. And they don't care about the unity of people around. They don't care the unity of Ethiopia. They don't care if Ethiopia exists or not. So this is a monster organization which has no aim except its own personal interest is to stay in power. So this is organization I see now, the organization everybody can see now. So that's what I see. I don't know, in respect to the current situation, I think they have gambled so much. Their military strategy is completely a fiasco, I think, as I see it. They have brought a lot of devastations and disasters to the people in Tigray and surrounding people in Amhara and Afar. A lot of people are dying because of this war, directly from the war and from its side effects, like starvation and displacements as well. So this gambling would cost, first of all, most to the Tigrayan people. They are their children who are dying on these fronts. And it is a war which they cannot win, but they have been, mobilizing people that always they are the winners, they are powerful, and they propagate such things to mobilize the people, just to keep the spirit of the people. They have to show always that they are winning. But on this process, they are coming into a big problem, I think. Recently, if you have seen, because there is no victories that they can report to their people, they just fabricated a helicopter for it. That's a victory, just to mobilize the people. That's what they use. That's how they go. It's a kind of mobilizing people on the victories they achieve. But this victory will turn into a disaster soon. That's what I see.
After already removed from power by popular revolt of all Ethiopian people, the TPLF continued to destabilize the country by inciting conflicts among regions of neighboring regions. What do you think is its goal in doing so?
Well, they have exercised this while they have been in power, and they are doing it now too. They live on, they are divisive. They live on polarizing conflicts among the people. That's how they live. And it's not only in other parts of Ethiopia, but even within Tigray itself, for example, Walqait and Tagaru, they polarize them. That's what happened. The Maikadra incident is that what shows, demonstrates that. So they live on that. Even now, on their advance towards Ethiopia, they are using a lot of functions to divide the people. They say when they come to Amhara, the Agaw, the command. When they come to Oromo, they say the Shenne. It goes like that. It tries to divide the people and to exploit this division, only to achieve that they come to power. They don't care if the people kill each other or Ethiopia disintegrates. It is not a question for them. So they have been divisive and they are still divisive.
The TPLF has started war against the federal government of Ethiopia by attacking the northern command of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia's command force a year ago. And what do you think was their aim by doing so?
When they were forced out of power, they went back to Tigray and they started mobilizing the people. Also, they were using victimized Tigrayans propaganda that the Tigrayans were victimized. Sure, when they left power, the whole Ethiopia was in chaos, you can say. There was conflict all over the country. Tigrayans were displaced, attacked in some areas, killed in some areas, but it was not different from the other people in Ethiopia. A lot of Oromos and Somalis were displaced. They killed each other. Amaras against Oromos, Oromos against Amaras, Afars against Somalis. This was the situation. They left this country, and they were using this to mobilize the people, as if they were the only ones who were attacked by other people of Ethiopia, victimized as a victim. So they were against the central government. They have been mobilizing and recruiting militias as well. They had a slogan, "Make it stand for your region," and they will fight back against the government. And they have recruited special militias. They have been parading a show of force in stadiums with a lot of people, with a lot of agitating propagandas. They have been doing that. And finally, of course, on the process as well, they were defying orders from the government, orders from the court, decisions by the parliament. They have done all this. And then attempts for mediation were made by the Ethiopian government. They rejected all. And finally, when they felt they were ready to attack, they attacked the northern division. You can imagine so many thousands of soldiers with the biggest armament in Ethiopia. They have control of that. And they declared now, they said themselves, they have declared a lightning attack on the division. And now they have controlled the best armament in Ethiopia. And nobody can threaten them. That's what they declared. And finally, of course, the Ethiopian government has to react for such kind of attack. And then the Ethiopian government launched an attack against the TPLF. That's how it started. But the whole story, if you see it, is they have been preparing themselves for such kind of an attack.
Good.
So, I think they have been trying to delegitimize the central government. They say from September on, there will not be any legitimate government. They have been declaring that. And then in the meantime, in this process also, they have been cooperating with all extremist forces in the country to destabilize the country. They have been, in fact, initiating such kind of conflicts. So they were prepared to do these things. They were preparing to do that. And finally, we came to this situation.
Lastly, what should be done in ending this crisis? What should be done in this country?
Well, peaceful attempts have been made, at least in June, when the government of Ethiopia declared one-side ceasefire. Then it was possible they could have exploited that one. They could have shown some kind of gesture toward this mediation. But since they were in a pushing situation, they had an upper hand on the military situation. They didn't want to accept that. In fact, they continued to attack the government, the army, and then advanced towards Amhara and Afar, that moment they have lost that moment actually, yes. Now, on this situation, I think they are in a losing direction now. I cannot say on their behalf, but there could be a possibility for settlement, peaceful settlement, negotiation. But what and how, it's very difficult to say. I could say something on that respect. If the people in Tigray, the TPLF are wise, I think they have to withdraw as soon as possible before it is too late to Tigray from the areas they have occupied. And then declare ceasefire and call for a negotiated settlement. I hope, I think I have heard from the Ethiopian Foreign Ministry also statement that they are willing if there is a possibility for peaceful negotiation. So if that is the case, I think that could be the first step that they could have could be done. I wish it ends in a peaceful settlement like that, because the costs are very high in both directions. But this is the situation, and that's the first condition I set myself to these people. At least they have to withdraw from these areas they have occupied now, back to Tigray, declare ceasefire, and then ask for a negotiated settlement. Of course, there could be other conditions after that. It is the Ethiopian government who can set that conditions, or the Tigray TPLF. There could be conditions after that, but this will be the first condition that have to fulfill by TPLF.
I'm done with my questions and agendas. Lastly, if I have a general message for the people of Ethiopia, the government of Ethiopia, and the Tigrayan people, diasporas living inside and outside of the country, if you have a general message for all these stakeholders, you are very welcome.
What I could say is, one, as we can see, the Ethiopian people are very well mobilized with high spirit. There is a lot of patriotism now, as I can see. I have never seen such things like this before. So we have to keep it up. This is a question of our sovereignty, right, and independence. So that's very appreciable, and we have to continue that. And from the TPLF side, I think they have to withdraw themselves from attacking and think of peaceful settlements. That's what I would advise them. Generally, the Tigrayan people. Now we have to think, we have seen everything now. The Tigrayan elders and maybe some wise people should try to find a solution, or come together and try to find a solution for this problem. This belligerent attitude, which will solve everything with our power, does not take us anywhere. That's what I would say. And let's all of us try also to find a peaceful and viable solution for our situation. That's what I would say. Unless I am sure the situation for TPLF is now on the sliding side, and they have to think about it.
Good. Mr. Gidey Zeratsion, a founding member of the TPLF and member of the CZ for the TPLF, former top politician. Many thanks for joining us and for sharing your time as well as your knowledge. Thank you very much for joining us again.
Thank you for giving me this chance. Thank you for having me.
Well, dear viewers, this will bring us to the end of this edition. I will come on the move by hosting this program. Have a beautiful time. Till the next edition. Have a good time.